speaking to that,
she's black, yeah, she's disabled, I'm disabled. Yeah. Then you think that being disabled is just one of the worst things.
Hey, I'm Kym.
Hi, I'm Jay.
And this is Cripples.
Two swipes right on the baby.
Okay, let's not talk
about
stop.
So you're still tuned in to 3FM 92.7, fair and square, and this is Sunrise on your favorite dial. We're talking disability today. We have two physically challenged ladies in the house, and we will be speaking to them, we will be profiling them, we'll be asking them a few questions, and you can't make this interview. But before we go into our conversation, we will just take a listen to the Triple Cripples story, and then we come back in studio, introduce our guests, and get into the business.
Because of the wheelchair, I must be blind. I must not have any idea. You must take what you're given.
Is it a TV show?
The lack of
YouTube channel. We'll give you all the details.
I don't think that a word like cripple should define the trajectory of any disabled person.
We have two distinguished guests with us in studio. We will take a listen to another soundbite, and then we'll come back to studio.
It's that their uncomfortableness with disability is what makes them not want to call you disabled, because then they will have to think about that thing, and they will have to also face their own prejudices.
Exactly.
And they want to be able to see, exactly, they want to see you outside of that bubble so that they can then be normal. Because if they do call you disabled and you are, then they can no longer be normal with you. They can no longer treat you like a human because you're no longer.
Unfortunately, I can't. Do you know what I mean? No, my goodness. But it's true. Yeah. It's like, if she's disabled, I can't joke around with her. If she's disabled, I can't date her. If she's disabled, I can't work with her. If she's disabled, I can't shoot her.
Alright, so you heard that, and these are examples of the many challenges that people with disabilities have to face. So let's just get straight to the point. We have in studio Kym Oliver.
Yes.
Yes.
Good morning.
Kym, say hello to your listeners.
Good morning. Good morning.
All right, and then we also have in studio Ola Jumoke Abdullahi.
Yes.
Did I get the name right?
Yes, Ola Jumoke.
Okay, so you're welcome to our studios here at
Thank
3FM.
Thank you.
It's
good to be here.
Oh, thank you very much.
We try. It's the sun, you know. It's the Ghanaian sun,
isn't it?
Yeah.
All right. So we're just going to go straight to the point. You can tell us a bit about yourself. I'm going to start with Jumoke. Just tell us who you are, where you're from, and why you're here today.
Right. Okay. So I'm Jumoke, and I'm originally from Nigeria. I was born in Nigeria, where I unfortunately contracted polio before my first birthday, and I moved with my parents to London at the age of 5, and I've been living there ever since. So out of the Triple Cripples duo, I know what it means to have been disabled for practically all of your life. And there was once upon a time, pre-Kym and pre-Triple Cripples, where I would always try to, as much as I could, diminish or hide away from my disability, but I try not to do that anymore, just because it's not something to be ashamed of.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I'll come to you now. Kym Oliver, and you could just tell us a bit about yourself, your disability, where you're from, and yeah.
Okay, so I'm Kym, and I have multiple sclerosis. I contracted that when I was 25, so like in the peak of my youth. So unlike Jumoke, I haven't been disabled all my life, but I became disabled, which is something that can happen to anyone.
Yeah.
Multiple sclerosis is something random. They've got no cure for it. They don't know how it comes. They don't know, you know, what causes it. But it is something that does change your life and can cause disablement. In terms of pre-J, before I met her and how I interacted with it, I think there was a lot of preconditioned shame. Because you grow up in a society that you see the way disabled people are treated, you see the way illness is discussed or not discussed in most communities. And so when it started happening to me and I started getting these symptoms, I immediately felt the weight of all of that programming and directed it towards myself. So it's meeting her and kind of being on this journey has allowed me to actually not reclaim but redefine who I am in a world that says that I shouldn't belong, and a world that kind of rejected me once I changed.
Okay, carry on.
No, I was just going to say I'm half Ghanaian and half Montserratian. So my dad is from the Caribbean and my mom is from here.
Okay, all right. So welcome. This is the year of return. So,
yes.
So it's good to have you.
The baby
ladies.
girls have returned.
Yes, it's good to have you ladies here with us. I was going to ask you about terminology because many people are not quite sure how to address, you know, people with disabilities. Some people say, oh, you should call her a person with special needs. You should call her, you know, somebody with a physical, you know, difficulty or physical challenge. People say, oh, she's disabled, and some people find that offensive. I don't know, what is this with terminology? How would you want to be addressed?
Well, what we have found is that the people that are most offended by the word disabled are the non-disabled themselves.
Yeah.
Because there's always an issue of trying to skirt around the issue. Disabled isn't a negative, it isn't a bad word, but it's the way that the stigma is associated with that. So it's usually people that don't have disabilities that are always trying to skirt around the issue. But you need to talk to the person themselves. Would they prefer a person first, identify like a person with a disability or just disabled person? And they can tell you that.
It's just a description. It just describes how you move through society. And actually, if we look at the social model of disability, it means that the society has prevented you from being able to do certain things. So actually, it is actually a really good description of getting the society to recognize the ways in which it's excluding certain members of the society and rectifying those things. So I won't need to, hopefully once you make those changes, call myself disabled by my society, right?
You know, I thought about this because my father has, you know, lost his sight in his, you know, later years in life, and he hasn't been blind for all of his life. He just lost his sight now. So when you said that you contracted multiple sclerosis at 25, I immediately could relate to that. You know, I'm the one I'm not the one that's lost my sight, but I do live with my father, and he has lost his sight, and it takes getting used to. It's difficult, the mental issues to deal with. There's so many things to deal with. How are you I'm going to go to the story of the triple cripple, the entire duo, and what you all are up to in your advocacy work. But I'm going to have to try to get into your head and find out how you've managed to how do you come from being what you term regular to all of a sudden not being able to do the things that you used to do, you know, easily before.
It's devastating.
Can you imagine?
Because I built my whole life around acts and what I do, and that being the definition of me, what I can do, right? What I can do for others, as well as what you can do for yourself.
Right.
And being someone who perhaps did not have anyone disabled within my immediate sphere, it was a completely alien experience to me. We associate needing help to bathe and all of those things with the elderly. And often in society, we marginalize them too. Like once people get to a certain age, we don't listen to what they say too much. We don't really give them the same consideration and care and emotional kind of support as we would give to one another. And so having to go through those experiences as a very young person was, yes, devastating, but illuminating, because it also kind of, you know, how people treat you is a major part of acclimatizing to a condition. How I was treated, how people no longer treated me, the relationships that I no longer had because I was no longer useful to them, or they were uncomfortable with having to see me in a certain state. That in itself was what really defined how I dealt with the situation. And I think once you reach a place, I think, yes, okay, social things help, like meeting people who have conditions and are like, oh, actually, well, you don't need to deal with this, or actually people shouldn't talk to you like that. That's not okay. Because remember I said earlier that I'd grown up in a world that let me know how disabled people and people with illnesses were treated subconsciously. So when people started treating me a certain way, I thought I deserved it.
You just conditioned your mind to just,
I thought I just accepted it. Because, you know, I was ashamed, and I also felt like, that's my new reality, right? And there's something inside me that was fighting against that, because I'm like 6'1". When I walk into a room, usually people know who is there. Do you know what I mean? And so to go from that to kind of not being able to walk, sitting in a wheelchair and people ignoring you, acting like you're not there, not listening to what you have to say. I'm fairly articulate, so then suddenly, regardless of how much I'm speaking, just not hearing anything because I'm in a wheelchair.
And this is something we always talk about. So we're both, you know, disabled black women, but the treatment, the very different treatments that we get because she's in a wheelchair and I'm on crutches is huge. And it's something that I've definitely learned through meeting Kym and getting to know her. The sort of, thank you, the ways that I've gotten used to being treated, you know, throughout my entire life, essentially.
She's just learning to cope with.
Well, one, just learning to cope with, but also the fact that our treatments are very different purely because of the mobility aids that we use. So sometimes we'll be out somewhere together and they'll be talking to me about her, even though she's right there.
Or if we're making contributions, Jay's contributions, Jumoke's contributions are seen as more valid because she's standing up.
Standing up.
Literally.
So she's more able than you, more or less, in their minds.
Do you think, Kym, do you think that you would have treated people how they treated you in your early days when you realized you were disabled? Would you have treated, if it was a relative or a friend who, after 25 years you've known the person, or last few years you've known the person, then all of a sudden the person's condition has changed, would you treat the person the same way people started treating you?
I think my situation's a bit different because I've been caring for people most of my life, right? And a lot of some of the work that I was doing, I worked in inclusive theatre. Though that doesn't mean that I was not ableist, it meant that I had encountered and was working one-on-one with people who had a variety of disabilities. I had people in my family who had become ill and we'd had to look after them. I had to look after children. So for me, there is a certain, and also my nature, I'm nurturing and I'm caring, and
I can attest to this.
So for me it might have been different. Also my family raised me a particular way, you know, to not see people in the way that society sees them, despite having these kind of this programming. I think, and also that's when you know someone personally, it's so different. The way we treat our personal friends and people is so different from the way we treat people outside. I can say sitting here, oh yeah, if my friend had gotten sick, I'd definitely not treat them like that because that's my friend and I know them. But how would I treat someone I didn't know? And that's something that I can't answer. I'm sure there were things that I thought that were wrong. Do you know what I mean?
But now when we have to come to the name Triple Cripple, you have to tell us how this came about and what you all are up to.
Right, yeah, so Triple Cripples is actually talking about the 3 layers of marginalization that we face because we are black, we are women, and we are also disabled. So people always expect there to be a third party.
Absolutely, that's what I thought.
There is not.
There is not.
I mean, that's the initial, you know, once you see it, it's okay, maybe.
Because everyone does use the word cripple to refer to disabled people. And that's the proof. That's the proof.
Right, yeah, so the reason that we thought of that is, first of all, it's quite catchy and it catches people's attentions, but it also challenges their preconceptions and the ideas that they think are associated with the word cripple, with disabled people, and the lives that we may or may not lead. So we're like, okay, this is the best name for us because disabled black women doesn't quite have the same ring to it. And as Kym has mentioned before, so disabled black women, that's not me, I don't really care. But if it's something that's quite shocking, that's quite in your face and slightly tongue-in-cheek, you're more inclined to want to find out more, and that's definitely like a lot of the times when we are interviewed, the name comes up.
And it also kind of suits our personalities. We're people who like to laugh, we like to make jokes, and you know, when we first thought of it, we both just fell out laughing. We were like, oh my god, this pushes the envelope, but you know what, we like it.
Great. So what are you exactly up to with the Triple Cripple, this duo that you formed? what are you really putting out there? What's your plan?
So initially we created it because there was a lacuna in the media industry. And essentially whenever you think of, Jumoke says this all the time, whenever you think of disability, usually you think of, especially at the forefront of disability movements, you think of disabled white people. They're the ones who we see as deserving of special consideration and care, and you know, we consider them to be more deserving of human interaction, and you know, let's give them rights and empathy and all of this stuff. And as black disabled people, black and brown people are the world majority, right? So that means there are more black and brown disabled people than there are any other demographic. And we don't get to see ourselves represented anywhere at all, in any sphere, in media, in whatever. And so that's a gap that causes problems for your social interactions, for your healthcare, for your education. Because if I can't see you, I don't know you exist. I will not make provisions for you. I will not even consider you as a viable member of the society, and therefore your life's outcomes will reflect such. And so we were like, media is a powerful tool, right? It's one of the most powerful ways to brainwash people and to start social change. And so we were like, well, let's be the change we want to see. Let's be on the media. Let's give people a reference point.
So you're advocating for, you know, several, you know, things. You want representation. You want to put it out there that you're equally, you know, important. I mean, basically, you're just normal, regular human beings that, you know, have to be represented as well. You know? All right, so we're going to go into, let's say, a day in your life, and if you're able to just go about your work, just get on like everybody else and achieve whatever you want to achieve or whatever you want to do with your life. You know, I'll start with you, Jumoke. What has been your plan for your life? You've had to, you know, be disabled, or you've had to need walking aids, you know, for most of your life, if you like, or all of your life. And has this impeded your growth or your progress in society, career-wise, you know, during your education?
Well, for me, not so much, because when, I mean, I contracted polio before my first birthday, so I don't actually know anything different to being disabled. And the very Yoruba upbringing that I had meant that there was always a sense of pride instilled into me. And even though it worked out in my favor, but the onus was put on me as the individual to make sure that if there was ever anything that I wanted, that I, you know, ensured that I did the very best that I could, given the facilities and the amenities that were around me, to make sure that I was able to get it. But what I will say is that while that did help me on a bigger scale, when we're talking about disabled people and what they can or cannot achieve, we have to ensure that we don't put the responsibility on them to change their outcomes. Because of the fact that I was able to move to London at a very young age, I had access to so many things that I wouldn't have been able to had I stayed in Nigeria, because I didn't, you know, I don't come from a moneyed family, and polio is a disability that requires constant maintenance and upkeep. So we have to make sure that the lives for disabled people, especially for black and brown people around the world, especially in the motherland in Africa, is that where it needs to be, because we cannot now put it to disabled people to make their lives better when you haven't made anything around them better.
The social support,
the infrastructure, the roads, the schools, the businesses, in terms of me wanting to just hang out with my friends, these things aren't available. So how there is not enough strength of will for me to overcome stairs. It's just not going to happen. So we have to ensure that the society that we're in is doing its part, because there's only so much you can do.
I was just going to go into that, because in Ghana here we've talked a lot about gender issues and affirmative action. The bill has been in Parliament for 13 years, and we have lots of civil society organizations still trying to, you know, get the bill passed and do a lot of advocacy. You know, some countries, Guinea-Bissau, Rwanda, and other countries have done, you know, have had a bit of progress when it comes to that. So before we get into it, well, guys, we're in studio with Kym Oliver and Kym Jumoke Abdullahi, and they're two persons with physical challenges, if that's how I'd like to put it, and they're here with us sharing their story and, you know, sort of bringing light to this issue of, you know, negligence really generally by society and of people with disabilities and the way that they're treated in general. This is still Sunrise on 3FM 92.7, and quickly, Kym, you tell us about your case is exceptionally different because you've just had to come to terms with this now at a grown age. Has this in any way impeded your growth, your progress in life in general?
Well, yes, it did. It stopped my life in its tracks because multiple sclerosis is a degenerative condition, and it fluctuates daily, and it disables you, and it makes you unable to perform tasks because it affects the brain and the spinal cord, and so every system in the body is affected. So for me, when I first started, I was studying, I was working, and I was abroad interviewing for an internship, and as soon as I started falling ill, within a month, I was no longer able to read properly. I couldn't really speak properly. I couldn't really see properly out one of my eyes. I couldn't walk. And so I could no longer study. I had to stop my degree. I couldn't go out. I couldn't go and perform. I couldn't go to rehearsals. I couldn't go and do the things that I was doing, go to work. And so it stopped everything in its tracks. And it continues to impede in the sense that, you know, once you then become more disabled or your mobility lessens, you have access to less in society. Using a wheelchair means that I can't get into most places. It means that when I can get into places, there aren't facilities available for me. So yes, I could get in here today, but could I get in here by myself, or would I need loads of people to help push me up the ramp that's there? Would I need people to look to see if they had something to put over the potholes? Would I need someone to help me in the bathroom? Like it becomes intimately more complicated.
It must be.
And then where you have like a chronic illness, because not all illnesses are visible, right? And multiple sclerosis most of the time is invisible,
in your face,
right? So there are some symptoms that I have that prevent me from being able to, let's say, hold a 9 to 5 like everyone else, because I'm in pain all the time, I'm in bed all the time, I'm tired, I've got all of these other symptoms going on that affect my productivity. And where we live in a society that says that your worth is determined by your capitalist productivity, not your contribution to society, it then has a mental strain, right? It adds mental strain to you as well. So it does do that. So there may be things that I'd want to do, but there are things that maybe I cannot do because of the particular condition that I have. So yes, it's impeded. In terms of, but I always say at the same time that it's one of the, I don't wish it on anyone, but it's one of the most useful things that has happened to me in terms of self-development and growth. Because had I not had this experience, there is so much empathy I would not have. There is so much experience I would not have with people and understanding the world and society. There is, triple cripples would not exist in terms of understanding the mandate to create a different landscape for those coming behind us. And even just self-development in terms of discovering who I actually am, not who people said I was, not who I was, the role I was playing for others. I've had to define that for myself and redefine that. And so in some ways it has helped me discover who I actually am and develop a confidence in myself that goes beyond what people might say or think or expect.
There's been the concern locally, especially here in Ghana, about persons living with disability and their ability to move around. And the fact that our transport system, our walkways, and many other things naturally have just been built for able-bodied persons, and no lack or no attention at all to persons with disability. In fact, new structures coming up, you know, huge state-of-the-art structures are not disability friendly. How have you tied that into your daily activities, you know, especially here in Ghana? I know elsewhere you have a number of these things made quite easy, at least accessibility, but here in Ghana and in other African countries, in fact, I dare say, they have just neglected persons living with disability, and especially the fact that they need to move around as well.
It's a struggle. It's a struggle, and also I think it comes down to, it's not just about Kym getting around, right? It's about the society and the culture and the perception, right? Culturally, what do we do with disabled people? When we have disabled children, when we have disabled relatives, do we parade them or do we hide them? Do we take them to church and say we need to pray the demons out of them? Like, what are the ways in which we perceive, view, and treat them? And if we see them as and we see their disability as a character flaw or some sort of curse, then why would we integrate them into our planning for new buildings where we want wonderful people to be, right? Disability isn't a character flaw, right? It is just another way of being. It's either genetic or environmental lottery. That's what happens. It's no different from you having brown eyes or dark brown eyes or thick lips, or that is what it is. And so if we create a cultural shift that will allow us to start viewing people with disabilities as equally human and creating an equitable society.
People, really.
Yes, because actually we say this all the time, if you make sure that the most vulnerable and marginalized members of your society are catered for, everyone else benefits. If you make sure all the buildings that you're creating are accessible, everyone who has, from the people who use mobility aids to people with pushchairs to people who just might be a bit tired that day, they can all get into the building. Do you know what I mean? So it's just, yes, it's difficult, but it's because underneath all of the planning that goes on, disabled people aren't counted. They're not seen as equal and they're not seen as human. And that's what will change it. It's nothing more than that. Look, macro is important. Yes, structural change. But the micro, interpersonal, social, cultural, that's equally important, because just because I can get into the building doesn't mean I'm welcome. Do you know what I mean?
I'm so moved by this. I'm so moved by all of this, because I've had to learn how to deal with or handle somebody with a disability in my home. And it comes to mind, what comes to mind is that sometimes, or most of the time, it's not even the persons with disabilities that have the problem. It's the people around them that just don't know how to deal with it. So I'm hoping that you do, in your advocacy work, as you're doing now, you would draw more light to the fact that everybody around has to learn how to deal with or handle a person with disability. I mean, you would think that, oh, it's just child's play, but if you don't know how to handle a wheelchair, you can't move somebody up a ramp. There's a ramp. You see it in front of you. You don't know that you have to turn it round and move from the back. You understand? So for me, it's not even this. I don't see, I've spoken to you this morning, and I'm intrigued, and I say, these are just regular ladies. You know, just doing their thing. It's really got nothing to do with what you can or cannot do physically.
But that's what we always talk about. Like whenever we talk about disability, as you mentioned, like with the gender issues and the affirmative action, and still being talked about 13 years later, is that disability cuts across through everything.
It does.
It cuts across through everything. So whenever we're talking about women's issues, we have to talk about disability. Whenever we're talking about education, we have to talk about disability. Whenever we're talking about men's issues, we have to talk about disability. When we're talking about climate change, we have to talk about disability. When we're talking about everything, we have to talk about disability, and it is through this exclusion that things aren't going to get better.
I don't know if we have time to get into your dating lives and so on.
I like to say that I admire you too a lot.
Yes,
I mean,
thank you.
Seeing you and hearing you talk, I am amazed about your level of confidence and how you get around it. Honestly, I mean, I'm comparing you to friends I have in Ghana who have some form of disability, and I cannot even measure the confidence you bring to this.
Well, we're sure the society doesn't make it easy.
Exactly. We've been afforded the ability to cultivate that. Like you can't, and it's another thing, the idea that disabled people, in the conditions that we're in the situations that we're in the societies and cultures that we're in, are supposed to somehow be super resilient and positive and powerful and all these things.
That's very unfair. Sometimes you don't feel good. Sometimes you're annoyed. Sometimes
and
just like everybody else.
It's allowed. A range of emotions, and it shouldn't be upon us to make people that aren't disabled feel better about themselves, or at the very least not make them feel uncomfortable.
Have you met any disabled people in Ghana?
Yes.
Okay.
Groups.
We've interacting with them.
Well, we've interacted with some accidentally, as you do when you're driving. We've been in taxis and we've interacted. We've met some, but we've also we were in contact with Farida Bedway, who's very well known here,
and Effie Antonio, who
deals with a lot of disability work, and it's interesting the stark difference between people like Farida, people like us, and the people who are actually on the ground in Ghana who are living daily with disabilities. And that's why we're here. No,
the difference between us is opportunity. That's literally it's
provision.
Provision. It's the places in which we live. It's the facilities that we have access to. Anybody can be confident given the right environment.
And the right facilities.
Wow. I like the last word. Everybody can be comfortable giving the right
environment.
That's right. That's a beautiful line.
I would like to say a quick thing. The wonderful Farida and Afi and all these amazing people that we've met. Shout out to Makiba and the whole MCPR Africa team. They've just been so wonderful, putting us in contact with people that have been able to allow us to continue the Triple Cripples conversation and try and move things forward inGhana and hopefully in Africa and the rest of the world.
So Makiba's listening. Hi, Makiba.
Hello, Makiba.
It's really nice to have you here.
Thank you so much.
It's a beautiful country, sunshine everywhere. We hope you enjoy your time here, and we hope that your message gets around and gets entrenched into our society. So thank you, Kym and Jumoke,
thank you
for being with us today, and we hope to see you again.
We're here till January. We're here till January. So
beautiful.
People get in contact. Are you taking us?
Are you going to pay?
Have a conversation with Martin on this one. All right, guys. So thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. So this has been a conversation with Kym Oliver and Jumoke Abdullah, and we've been talking disabilities until sunrise, 92.7 FM, and we will be right back.
You are crippled in terms of your social interaction, in terms of your upward mobility, at times in terms of the access that you have. As a woman, when you're unable to access, you are
and that's your right.
That's so powerful is the fact
because
that
there's a thin line between wanting to assist and then making it look as if
somehow whatever they think of
the person needs it and you are the one to help. If the person doesn't want it.
These were created for a specific campaign that was to do with people walking up to the street and praying.
The unnecessary one.
All C is the particular image they've been shown. It then
it's just another way of being.